All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Willie Does Wrestling channel. And today I'm going to be doing something that I've only really done once on this channel, and that is reviewing movies. I am a huge film nerd. If you guys have checked out my last channel, you guys know that I am a huge Saw nerd, and I've been waiting many days to review this movie, Saw X. Saw X released September 29th. I saw it like that day with my brother, and you know, I know a lot of people don't really have a lot of high hopes for these Saw movies, especially Saws 4 to Spiral. They haven't really been the very best. Really, the first three are what people would normally give the Saw franchise a chance, mainly because of John Kramer. Well, it really seems that the creators of this movie really have taken that statement to home, considering the fact that this movie is a prequel between Saws 1 and 2, and it focuses heavily on John Kramer. And I saw this movie with pretty decent expectations. Like, I don't like a few of the Saw movies, but there are things in all the Saw movies in this franchise that I really enjoy. It is my favorite horror franchise besides the Child's Play franchise of all time. Like, there's Child's Play and then there's Saw. That's really it. So, what do I think about Saw X? Well, I think it was an absolute banger of a movie. I'm so glad that I watched it. There's a lot of amazing positives, especially Tobin Bell as John Kramer. He absolutely fucking killed it, especially considering the fact the man's like 81 now. And the fact that he's able to act he was 20 years ago is absolutely fucking crazy to me. So I really do got to give Tobin Bell his props in this movie. Um I'm not gonna talk about anything in this film without discussing a bit of spoilers. So this is your warning here that this review does contain spoilers. So if you care about spoilers, I recommend you click off this video. If you have seen this movie though, or if you're an individual who does not give a fuck about spoilers, you're in the right place. And I'm gonna dive into a bit of spoilers right now. This film starts off with John Kramer getting his terminal brain cancer diagnosis, and he gets a timeline of about a few months to live. And we really do see John struggling with his cancer and all that. And then he meets one of the people in his cancer support group who tells him about this little underground, off the record kind of operation in Mexico where they pretty much put you in complete remission. If you go to this place in Mexico, these doctors are going to fix you right up and it'll save your life. And John takes it. He just, little to no hesitation, he takes it because he doesn't have a few months. He does have a few months to live, but he's very desperate to get this done. So he goes to Mexico. He meets all of these doctors, and he stays in a little house. Like I was gonna say beach house, but I don't know. With a nice girl named Gabriella. He meets the daughter of the main doctor who isn't even in this movie. I think her name was Cecilia. Then there was a doctor named Mateo, a driver named Diego, and blah, blah, blah. He goes and gets this operation, and then as soon as John is done the operation, the doctors are pretty much like, "Hey, buddy, you're cured. You don't need to go through life with cancer anymore. We got it all." So John is just like, holy shit, right? And he just has a newfound love for his life. he was actually considering like quitting the traps. He was like there was a little thing where he had this notebook, and then he ripped a page after he got the news that his cancer was done. So it was a good look into his character, being of him being like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not gonna do the traps anymore. And you see him all happy and shit. But then when John goes back to thank the doctors for helping him, he finds that the place is completely abandoned and that the whole thing was rigged and that John was not the only one they've done this to. So John Kramer, knowing this, just calls up Amanda and kidnaps fucking everyone. And it was nice to see Amanda going ham. I think her wig needs work. It reminded me of Gale Weathers in Scream 3. The traps in this movie were very good. I will say that. The first person he targets before he gets everyone is the taxi driver, who actually was one of the doctors in the room. So he was the taxi driver, and then he was one of the doctors who did the operation. His trap was he had explosive devices on his arms, and in order to disarm the bombs, he pretty much had to disarm himself. He had to cut off his own arms before the devices exploded. If he didn't, he died. And he survived. He cut off his arms and he lived. That was the first trap done. Then they got all the doctors and Gabriella, who was the owner of the home that John was in Mexico. And then John puts them all in a room in their own individual traps. Like, they're all in their traps, and one by one they go through their tests. And during this, John Kramer and Amanda are in like a projection room mainly, or a surveillance room. And I gotta say, not the father-daughter, but the mentor-apprentice relationship between John Kramer and Amanda was absolutely done well here. And especially Tobin Bell as an actor. Tobin Bell gave his absolute all into this performance, and I absolutely give him insane props for that. Tobin Bell is absolutely amazing. So the first one to go through a trap is a woman who I forget her name, but she is put in a trap where it's like a razor wire, and it will decapitate her head if she doesn't amputate her arm. Her leg. If she doesn't amputate her leg, this razor wire is going to cut her head off. And then after she's done cutting off her leg, she has to put it in some device, or I don't know, blood has to fill up, and if it doesn't in time, she dies. So she cuts off her leg, puts a little tube in the severed leg, and then watches the blood levels try to reach the limit, but by a millisecond, it doesn't work, and she dies. She almost got it, but she got fucking decapitated. And then after this, the three people, Cecilia, Mateo, and Gabriella, are trying to get the phone that was left in Amanda's jacket. So Cecilia goes over and grabs something, I forget what, and then cuts the dead girl open and grabs fucking pieces of her intestines, and then all three of them use the intestines to pull the wheelie cart over, so that way Cecilia can grab the phone to try to call someone for help, who she says was her father, but we learn to find out it wasn't her father. Then around the middle of this, there was a guy. His name was Parker, I think, who was acting like an old patient of the doctors, saying, "I'm here for my money back. These fucking people scam me for my money." So John Kramer and Amanda keep the guy up in the surveillance room so he can watch these doctors essentially die, thinking that this guy was just a victim. Gabriella was supposed to be next for her game, and Gabriella in this film, like, she plays the role of this innocent roommate, but in actual life, she is a drug addict. And considering the fact that Amanda in the first Saw film was a drug addict, Amanda's like, no, I don't want Gabriella to be next. Like, she kind of sympathizes with her. She's like, I don't want her to be next. Mateo should be next. And John just doesn't argue. It's just like, okay, whatever. So Mateo gets in his trap, and it's like he has to scalpel his head and pull out a piece of his brain and put it in a device, and his brain will dissolve or melt in this device, which will open a key to unlock his chains. So Mateo drills his head, breaks off his skull, takes out a piece of his brain and puts it in the device. But a lot like the other chick's game, by like a millisecond, he almost got it, but he dies. Like, he burns in this little mask thing that reminds me of like the Venus flytrap from Saw 2. That was wild. And then Gabriella was next, and she goes up, like, pretty much to the roof by her chains, and there's like a little furnace thing, like a hot ass fucking device that will burn her fucking face off if she doesn't grab a little hammer thing and just bash her arm and one of her legs. As soon as she does that, she beats her game. And Gabriella beats her game and survives. The second person to survive in this movie. After this happens, the guy, Parker, who was with John Kramer and Amanda, grabs his gun and pretty much says, unlock Cecilia right fucking now. Y'all are done. And that's pretty much the big twist in this movie, is that really John Kramer's the protagonist in this movie, and Cecilia and Parker are the antagonists, and they do such a good job to make these fuckers unlikable, because Parker basically gets John and Amanda to unlock Cecilia's chains, and then Cecilia and Parker lock Amanda up, and then John's like, don't do this, like, Gabriella needs to go to the hospital. She's burning up. She's going to die if she doesn't go to the hospital. And Cecilia is like, pretty much like, I don't give a fuck, and breaks Cecilia's neck, being like, one last person I have to pay for. It's like, they made this bitch unlikable. They made this bitch the fucking devil. What do you mean? It was weird as fuck to do. And then there's this kid named Carlos, I think his name was, and he was in the movie earlier where John was in his room and he sees Carlos, and then he fixes his bike. So Carlos goes over to this place for some fucking reason, and Cecilia's like, I'm gonna make you watch an innocent fucking person die. So she makes Parker grab the kid and locks John and Carlos on this seesaw-like trap, where if you pull the lever, you will get fucking waterboarded with blood. And then if the other person pulls the lever, it will save your life, and then they get waterboarded. It's kind of like one of us lives, one of us dies. So Amanda gets locked up to not really save John and Carlos, And they play this game of back and forth, and John was willing to sacrifice himself to save Carlos. And Carlos was trying to pull the lever too to save John, and this was the part where I was like, holy fucking shit. I thought this kid was going to kill himself to save John. So then Cecilia and Parker go up to the surveillance room where John and Amanda are to try to grab their money and get the fuck out of there. But then the room locks up, and John and Carlos's devices stop, and this is like a gas trap where the whole room is full of poisonous gas, and then there's a little hole where only one person can go through, poke their head through the hole to breathe in air, and the other one has to die. So Cecilia and Parker are fighting, and then Cecilia stabs Parker, so he dies from the poisonous gas, and Cecilia lives and pokes her head through the hole. But she doesn't escape through the fucking... she doesn't escape the room, though. She just pokes her head through the hole. I can't fucking speak. And there was a little cameo in this movie. Mark Hoffman, one of the apprentices in the Saw movies, actually told John about Parker, because Cecilia was like, how did he know? How did John know that you were coming? And that's because Hoffman's like, oh yeah, she has this guy named Parker who helps her, which I thought was very fucking sick. So then, since John and Carlos survives, John, Amanda, and Carlos get out of the place being like, let's get you home. And John gives Carlos Cecilia's money as like a thank you, which I thought was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing indeed. And then they leave. And then there was a post-credit scene where the guy who was in the cancer support group, Henry, was in the bathroom from the first Saw movie, and John and Mark Hoffman, who is there in the flesh, put him in this trap, and that was it. That was Saw X. This movie was absolutely great. First off, I love how they made you sympathize with John Kramer, and how they put so much on the focus on him. Because for the last few Saw movies, there was little to no focus on John Kramer whatsoever. And here you really see him being like, if you live, you survive. I'm not going to fuck you over. If you live, I want you to go to the hospital. I want you to survive. You've passed your test. Live your life. Like, John wanted Gabriella to go to the fucking hospital, but Cecilia fucking kills her. And you see John actually cry. He's like, no, stop this. It makes you think, like, John's actually just testing these people's will to live. Even though, yeah, it's not morally right to do this to these people, John Kramer cares about his morals. And that's something I really like. Amanda was also very good in this movie with what she was given. And I love how they made the people in these traps very unlikable. And since they are these con artists, it's like, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing them die. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'd be absolutely brilliant. Sorry. Fucking somebody was mowing their lawn. But I really like this movie. Yeah, just Tobin Bell stole the fucking show. I'm gonna say that right now. Tobin Bell as Jigsaw shined. One of the most emotional performances, one of the greatest performances in the entire fucking franchise. The traps were also very good. The gore was very good. I love the visuals. I love the music. The music is always on par. And the visuals felt like a Saw movie. You know how with the last two films, like Jigsaw and Spiral, they didn't really feel like Saw movies? This one felt like a original trilogy Saw movie. And yeah, just the overall story and the plot. Like it wasn't like here's a flashback, then here's a cop storyline, then here's what's going on with Jigsaw, then there's another flashback, then there's this, then there's that. Oh, here's John's wife. Oh, here's Hoffman. Here's a flashback to wherever else in the franchise. It's not really like that anymore. It's one continuous story throughout the movie, which is John and Amanda trying to get rid of these con artists, but then the con artists try to outsmart Jigsaw, but they don't. And I absolutely love it. Saw X I will probably rate in my top 3 Saw movies. I would really say Saw 2, like Saw 2, Saw 1, and then Saw X. That I think Saw X has made my top 3 Saw movies of all time. But Saw X is absolutely worth watching if you haven't already. I absolutely love it. I absolutely recommend it to anybody who wants to watch these movies. Yeah, no, Saw X definitely leagues better than most of its predecessors, and I absolutely enjoy it. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of Saw X. If you have seen it, leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. I know we mainly talk about wrestling content here, but sometimes we will talk about movies. If there's any movies that you want me to talk about, be sure to leave them down in the comments below as well. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for 1,300 subscribers. It means the absolute world to me. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, man. Tell them that we're here. Tell them that we're trying to upload. We're trying to stay on the grind. Thank you so much for watching. This has been your boy, Willie Does Wrestling. I will see you in the next video. Be good people, and peace.